I didn't want them to fight.
No?
I really like both of those guys. Both guys, class act. It would look like I'm leaning towards.
Floyd Mayweather has spoken about the potential Terence Crawford versus Jaron Ennis fight after securing his status as a four-division world champion with a decisive win over Israel Madoff. Crawford now finds himself with a wealth of options for his next bout. Recently, Crawford stated that he would like to step up to 168 pounds and fight against Canelo Alvarez in a major match. After trying out at 154 pounds for the first time, Crawford didn't back down from that ambition following his win over Madoff, telling everyone it's just another milestone to greatness, I guess, and financially wise. Not only that, but earlier, Torki Alalshik, head of the General Entertainment Authority, said I gave Alvarez an offer. If he's smart, he'll accept it. If they accept, we want to see this fight. Could we watch Canelo versus Crawford on September 14th? If Alvarez wins his match against Edgar Berlanga, the world is ready for you, but there is another possible matchup. Jaron Ennis and Crawford met in the build-up to Crawford's fight against Madoff during fight week. They kept their composure, yet Boots Ennis has openly declared his readiness to chase Crawford up to 154 pounds, hoping to secure a blockbuster showdown at that weight class.
That's the fight that everybody want to see.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Do you respect him as like when he's like, I got a couple fights left, I'm at the end, I'm only trying to get mega fights, so.
I understand it,
Yeah.
but don't lie or kept to the net and make it seem like I had the opportunity to fight you and I didn't. I never did. You know what I'm saying? And then that one time that I did,
Yeah.
we said they called and we said we never heard nothing else back about it. So like.
Right.
I mean, I respect it though. I mean, get your money. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. But don't be capping on the net.
If Crawford finds the Canelo fight out of reach, will he turn his attention to Ennis instead? Or might he aim to dominate the super welterweight class while striving for an extraordinary third undisputed world championship on August 10th? Ortiz will fight against Bohachik for the WBC super welterweight world title. Would Crawford be willing to fight the victor so much already a world title winner at 154 pounds? Crawford has a golden chance to enhance his super welterweight accolades by challenging the winner of this match. This bout could further cement his legendary position in boxing history. However, Torki Alalshik seems convinced that Jaron Ennis has big shoes to fill in the boxing world on social media. Alalshik suggested an enticing matchup between Ennis and the pound-for-pound legend Terence Crawford at junior middleweight, telling fans that it could happen soon in a triumphant Philadelphia homecoming. 27-year-old Ennis showed his prowess by halting Nottinghamshire's David Abanesian within 5 rounds. This marked his inaugural fight under Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing banner, and his commanding display did not go unnoticed by Alalshik. I just called out to boxer Jaron Ennis and Eddie Hearn to congratulate him on his win, and I'd love to see Ennis in a fight with Crawford at weight 154, he soon tweeted. Alalshik and manager Eddie Hearn shared his optimism about the prospective matchup but noted it would probably occur in 2025. Hearn stressed that Ennis's upcoming fall bout won't feature Crawford as his opponent. Hearn said he is going to move to 54 at some point, but you don't want to really go before you have taken care of business. Hearn related a talk regarding the possible battle between Crawford and Ennis that he had with Alalshik. Ennis, sitting next to Hearn, voiced his view with a quick retort and sent the contract. He detailed his conversation with Alalshik. I said to His Excellency, maybe if you want, we will go to the co-main event on Dimitri's Tour BBV in October out there in Saudi Arabia, or we could come back here in Philadelphia. Additional storylines are developing. According to Mike Ceir from ESPN, Saul Canelo Alvarez is eyeing a stay-busy bout in Los Angeles this fall, setting the stage for a blockbuster showdown with Terence Crawford in 2025, while Ennis remains a looming presence with the world's most powerful fight sponsors. The Saudis are highly interested in orchestrating this potential showdown. On the other hand, Jaron Ennis was noticed by Terence Crawford during his weighing for his out with Israel Madoff. Crawford approached Ennis and said, I thought you weren't going to watch Boots. Fold his arms tightly as Crawford made a subtle gesture that could easily be seen as a preemptive defense in case Terence chose to swing a fist. We can't fault Boots for crossing his arms defensively. Crawford's method was so unpredictable it left everyone guessing. With the way Crawford closed in on him, it was anyone's guess what he was planning. For all we know, Crawford might have been scheming to get a jump on Ennis before they even signed the fight deal. Ennis has been challenging Crawford for what feels like an eternity, eager to seize the attention and emerge as the new star. Yet Crawford has shown little interest in accommodating the rising talent, setting his sights instead on a high-profile showdown with Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds next year. Had Crawford been keeping up with the latest updates, he would have heard that promoter Eddie Hearn recently announced his arrival at the fight. Hearn also voiced his desire for Crawford to face his fighter Boots should the much-anticipated Canelo Alvarez bout all through. Hearn believes that Boots have the potential to overcome Crawford, viewing this matchup as the perfect chance for his fighter to solidify his place as a rising star in the boxing world. "I came here to support my teammate Andy Cruz and see him put on a show, and I was asked, so I couldn't turn it down." Ennis told Emily Austin of DAZN about why he came to the Riyadh season weighing prior to the bout on Saturday. Boots made his way to Los Angeles, where he quickly became Crawford's possible opponent for the future. Errol Spence held that job for a very long time between 2018 and 2023. The two were linked with a struggle against one another for about 5 years. Finally, last year there was a match that Crawford easily won by stoppage and was known for dominating. Ennis was in a position to challenge him directly following that outcome. Having already won the IBF interim belt, he was qualified to be a mandatory challenger. This suggested that Boots would get Crawford's new title as his next opponent. Crawford, however, was unable to accept Ennis's challenge because he was originally needed for a rematch with Spence, which never happened. A few months later, Ennis won the welterweight world title by accident. After he lost the IBF title last month, Ennis went back into the ring for his inaugural title defense, facing off against David Avanesian, whom Crawford had previously dispatched in just 6 rounds. Boots took the fight to its limit by ending it after just 5 rounds. Then he reaffirmed his challenge and stated that he would be willing to up the weight in order to face Crawford next. Ennis, Crawford's formidable new rival, was at ringside, ready to seize the chance to face him again, assuming victory unfolds as expected. Obviously, he wants to fight Terence Crawford. He wants to unify at 147 pounds. That's the goal. But after the fight with David Onen, His Excellency Turki Alalshik fast-timed me and said if Canelo won't fight Crawford, then I want to make that fight. Ennis promoter Hearn told TalkSport on Friday. Hearn added, "We love that fight. It's very scary, but it's one of the best fights in boxing." During Friday's weighing, the two got into a short altercation backstage. Crawford looked back at Boots before turning on his heel and walking away.
Thought you wasn't gonna watch it.
David Avanesian is currently savoring a well-earned rest in America following his narrow defeat in the bout for Jaron Ennis's IBF welterweight title in Philadelphia last month. Meanwhile, his trainer Greaves has returned to the grind in Newark, Nottinghamshire, while the unexpected alliance has proved successful for Avanesian, who secured a WBA title and sustained a fierce reign as the European welterweight champion. It has also afforded Greaves the chance to challenge his skills against two of the premier welterweights of today. Avanesian, with a record of 30 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw, bravely stepped in on just a month's notice to face Ennis after Cody Crowley was sidelined by a failed eye exam. Known for his relentless aggression, Avanesian delivered his trademark fiery performance. However, after sustaining significant facial injuries, he was knocked down and subsequently retired by his corner after the 5th round in December 2022. Avanesian journeyed to Omaha, Nebraska for a bid at Crawford's WBO welterweight title. The bout ended in the 6th round, but it remains a point of contention for Avanesian team. The controversy centers around Crawford's Everlast gloves, which after splitting open during the match were scrutinized prior to the start of round 6. Crawford and Ennis would make an incredible matchup between two of the best boxers in the world. Gavs has devoted countless hours studying footage of both fighters and observing them throughout fight week. He's experienced their demeanor on fight night up close and has directly witnessed their remarkable skills as soon as the first bell rings.
This fighter is, I know he is no good, understand? Check gloves, I know think nothing before. When I go start fight as European title, I tell my coach and Kerma Lecharaga, I say, listen, please see he gloves. And Kerma Lecharaga team, very good, nice people. When I go fight Crawford, I never think about gloves. I think, listen, he is good boxer. I think he don't need this.
As Crawford beat Israel Madaf this past weekend, it's the right moment to get Gav's take on how he and Ennis are stacking up in several key areas. He said, Boots Ennis is the busier, more active fighter. In my opinion, he's a bit younger and a bit fresher. On the other hand, Crawford is very patient. His timing is very good, and he plans just the right strikes at just the right times, whereas Ennis was more busy. Further added, I think that Crawford is a heavier-handed fighter. I was talking to David, and he said that Crawford hits harder, but that Boots Ennis was a bit sharper and busy. Then you take into consideration that when David fought Crawford the whole 6 rounds he was in there with him, he had dodgy gloves. When Onen came out of the ring afterwards, he said he'd never had pain or lumps on his head like it. Greaves stated that David had commented on the power of Agitas Cavalas, noting that Cavalas, who stopped Avanesian in 6 rounds in 2018, hit hard. David also stated that there is no comparison between Cavaliers and Boots. Ennis Gavs interpreted this to mean that Ennis is sharp and busy but did not seriously hurt him aside from a flash knockdown, according to Greaves. I would say Crawford is far more experienced. I know that Boots has had a lot of fights, and if you look at their records, they're highly similar, but you've got to look at the level that Crawford has been fighting at, and he's way more experienced at that level than Ennis. I do think that there's probably a bit more to come from Ennis though. As he goes on stepping up through the levels, he's going to have to show how good he is. Ennis and his team are much better people, describing them as proper, straightforward, and truly nice. He compared this with his experience around the Crawford team, which he felt was set up to annoy them. He recounted an incident at the public workout where Crawford's supporters harassed them and stated that this negative behavior continued throughout the week. While Greaves accepted that Crawford himself is very relaxed, he criticized the people around Crawford as not being good. Greaves added that it's hard for me to compare the two and say who would win, but I do think if David had more notice and was better prepared, the longer that fight with Ennis went, the more he was in it. It's a bit annoying really in a nutshell, and after speaking to David, I think Crawford would beat Boots, Ennis. Meanwhile, Jaron Ennis has continued to target a Terence Crawford bout despite the latter leaving welterweight for a fresh test. Boots gained the EYF title when Crawford gave up the titles at round 147, but he also lost out on the fight he truly wanted. After a commanding defense against David Avanesyan, he showed a willingness to move up to super welterweight to face Bud. However, Crawford's interest seems to lie elsewhere, as he is more focused on taking on Saul Canelo Alvarez, a super middleweight multi-division world champion and famous 50-0 undefeated fighter. Floyd Mayweather predicted a hell of a fight. In an interview with Fight Hype, talking about this possible bout, Mayweather said it would be a hell of a fight with Boots. Ennis, like we always say, somebody's got to give you a chance. Somebody got to give Boots the opportunity and chance. Whether it's Terence or somebody else, it seems like it's been tough for Crawford to get the Spence fight done. It's been difficult for him to get the Canelo fight done, so his other choice is probably Boots. In 2013, Ennis Mayweather found himself in a similar predicament when he squared off against Canelo. Although Canelo lost by majority decision that night, he later rose to dominate the sport both in his ring performances and in statistics. The gamble proved useful for Mayweather, as that win has only grown more impressive with time. When asked if there would be more benefit from Crawford in his fight or not, Mayweather replied that Crawford should think about what he wants. Mayweather said, "You got to ask yourself, is it about the reputation? Is it about the money? Is it about both? I'm not in these fighters' heads, so I don't know, but if you do want to fight him, fight him. If you don't fight somebody else. Do what makes you happy." Unfortunately for Ennis, Crawford says that Canelo is the fighter who will add way more to his bank account and his reputation. Crawford has mentioned that he is searching for that fight despite this threat. Crawford vs. Jaron Ennis is one of the most awaited fights that could be made in the sport right now. Ennis, a native of Philadelphia, has quickly established himself as a welterweight hero and holds the IBF title. A lot of people hope to see the two united in the future. When asked how Boots compares to the other fighters in the division, former welterweight champion Danny Garcia told YSM Sports Media that he was sure in his ability to win. Garcia said, "I think he can beat them all." He was then asked if that included Crawford, and he repeated the statement. He said, "I think he can beat them all." At last, he weighed in on Ennis's recent performance, where Ennis won a TKO win over David Avanesyan to defend his IBF welterweight title at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia in mid-July. Garcia said he did great, a plus, as Crawford triumphed over Madoff this past weekend. The buzz for a showdown between him and Ennis has increased. Ennis has expressed his willingness to step up to super welterweight to make the bout happen, and Crawford himself has admitted that a fight against Ennis makes more strategic sense than a clash with Saul Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds. If Terence Crawford could dispatch David Avanesyan in the 6th round, then Jaron Boots Ennis, who took out the European welterweight champ in the 5th, should be capable of even bigger feats. Why not set up a fight between these two conquerors of and find out who truly reigns? Supreme Ennis's standout performance has clearly caught the eye of His Excellency Turki Alalshik, who's now keen to see him square off against Crawford in the light middleweight division. However, Oscar de la Hoya remains skeptical, predicting that Boots might face defeat not only from Crawford but also from Virgil Ortiz Jr. Another powerful contender. Ennis was defending his title for the first time since becoming a full champion, a status he achieved after Crawford's departure from the IBF championship. Crawford has since moved up to light middleweight, with many speculating that this change is a strategic move to set up a coveted match with Canelo Alvarez. Meanwhile, Virgil Ortiz Jr. had been set for a fight on the same day as Crawford, but his bout with Tim Tszyu was scrapped. Instead, Ortiz Jr. will now face WBC interim light middleweight champion Sibahachik on August 10th in Las Vegas. Oscar de la Hoya seems unimpressed with Jaron Ennis' prospects, dismissing him as no match for fighters like Bud Crawford or Virgil Ortiz Jr., who he believes would dispatch to Philadelphia effortlessly. However, His Excellency Alex swiftly countered with a challenge. Let's see. The anticipated clash between Terence Crawford and Jaron Ennis has been one of boxing's most eagerly awaited bouts in recent memory, yet despite both fighters residing in the same weight class, their paths never quite aligned. For about Crawford, as the reigning champion was bound by the requirement to defend his title against Ennis, who held the interim IBF belt. However, Crawford's pre-existing contractual commitment to a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. complicated matters, preventing the matchup from materializing.
What we know?
I know everything.
I don't know nothing. I'm trying to find out what I know. Enlighten me.
What you mean, enlighten me? You for Devonese and you for me.
You jumped up out of my sanction body to go fight in the IBF. So what I know?
What you mean?
What you mean? What I mean? Was you ranked in the WBA or not?
Yo, it
or
don't
the
even
WBA?
matter. Yo,
All right, catch up, little homie. Catch up, then. If it don't matter, catch up.
Yo, he picked Ebenezer.
Catch up.
Ebenezer was way under.
You just said it don't matter. Catch up. I'm talking about before that.
He not about it. We already know he not about what he's talking about.
I'm not about what? I'm not about what?
You don't want to fight.
You said I'm not about what?
You don't want to fight.
Man, go to sleep.
Faced with the inability to move forward, the IBF eventually chose to revoke his title, downgrading him from a unified champion to merely undisputed. With the Spence Jr. rematch no longer on the horizon, Crawford chose to test his luck in a higher weight class. Many speculate that this shift might be his strategic play to position himself for a high-stakes showdown with Canelo Alvarez. Eddie Hearn continues to hold out hope for a potential showdown between Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford. In a recent post-fight press conference, he shared that he had a FaceTime call with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh during their talk. Ennis reportedly suggested to the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority of Saudi Arabia that he could send over the contract for a Crawford bout. Hearn is optimistic that after Crawford overcomes the Madoff issue, a bout with Ennis could be on the horizon. The English promoter wasn't particularly bullish about a showdown between Canelo Alvarez and Bud happening in the near future. Consequently, a match with Bout seems realistic and might be feasible by early 2025.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Boots is the best welterweight in the world. I mean, tell me a better welterweight than Boots Ennis. Impossible. There isn't one. So, he's the best welterweight in the world. I mean, we just finished a FaceTime with His Excellency, who asked me, will we make the Crawford fight? And the answer, Boots said to him, send the contract. So Terence Crawford, if he gets past Madrimov on August 3rd, will have the chance to see if Boots is a world-class fighter. And I think if Canelo Alvarez doesn't fight Terence Crawford, which I don't think he will, I believe you're going to see Boots Ennis against Crawford if he beats Madrimov in 2025.
With Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. out of the picture, Boots Ennis has emerged as the undisputed star in the welterweight class. In an interview with YSM Sports Media, Roy Jones Jr., the multi-weight world champion hailed as the greatest fighter of his age, described Ennis as a formidable opponent, providing every difficult challenge for the two-time undisputed champion. Jones said, "I don't know yet because we saw Boots in against a guy that has touched him enough to really test his chin. So that's the only thing we don't know about him yet. We don't know if he can take a real punch, although he now has the chance to unify the welterweight titles just as Bud did." Boots has shown a keen interest in stepping up to 154 pounds to make the matchup a reality with the backing of Turki Al-Sheikh from Riyadh season. The option suddenly appears within reach. Jones further added that, as far as skills go, he got everything. That fight could be very tough because he has everything. When a guy is as skilled with the skill level that Boots has, anything can happen. But don't get me wrong, Bud has the skill level too. Since 2023, fans have eagerly anticipated a fight between Crawford and Ennis. The excitement increased when Ennis dispatched Avanesyan in a faster time than Crawford did. This impressive performance has reignited discussions about a possible welterweight megafight capturing the imaginations of boxing fans everywhere. However, Shakur Stevenson, a teammate of Crawford, recently shot down the idea of a showdown between the former and disputed welterweight champion and the current reigning star at 147 pounds. Stevenson observed Ennis' showdown on June 13th. After the match, he spoke with Fight Hub TV and was asked about a possible Crawford-Ennis fight. His reaction was, "I'm not answering that question. I love my big brother, but I think he's a hell of a fighter. I think Boots are the future of fighting. Two hells of a boxer. Ennis will be undisputed at T147. Yeah, nobody at 147 can beat Ennis, who showed why he is hailed as one of boxing's brightest stars with his impressive title win against David Onen Boots, who improved to 30-0 with his 29 career stoppage victory, and he is now looking forward to fighting Terence Crawford, but solidified his reputation as the undisputed welterweight champion with a decisive TKO win over Errol Spence Jr. in July 2023. Hailing from Nebraska, he has now beaten Israel Madaf for the WBA title despite the former welterweight champion's quest for greater glory in higher weight divisions. Boots stays determined to face Bud at 147 pounds after his victory over Abanestian. He had this to say: "Let's make the fight happen. I want the big names, Terence Crawford, anybody else with big names, let's make it happen." Even though Antonio Tarver is thrilled with Jaron Ennis, he still believes the Philadelphia native cannot defeat Terence Crawford in a fight. Antonio Tarver, the former light heavyweight world champion, has weighed in on the prospective Crawford versus Ennis showdown. "I'm a Crawford guy, and I'm always going to run with Crawford. I saw him a long time ago, and my mind was made up a long time ago," said Tarver when speaking to Fight Hype. He added that he's done nothing but solidify everything that I thought he could be until someone beats Crawford. "I'm going to roll with him. I don't mind losing when I'm going with my guy. Until he loses, I'm going to roll with him." Moreover, Crawford has been adamant about pursuing only legacy-defining bouts before retiring, with his primary focus set on challenging the super middleweight champion Saul Canelo Alvarez. As stated at 147, Ennis would have been his prime challenger. Ennis has dazzled audiences with a series of standout performances in an interview with Fight Hub TV towards the end of last year. Bob Arum, Crawford's former promoter, praised Ennis as an exceptional boxer. However, he firmly maintained that his past fighter remains invincible in that weight class. Rum said, "I knew about those boots. Ennis is a tremendous fighter and a wonderful talent. Whether he would stand a chance with Crawford, I don't really know, because at 147, Crawford is, I think, unbeatable the same way Shocker is at 135, but Ennis is probably, other than Crawford, probably the best welterweight out there." Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.